And that is already a difference now between what we're doing and the kind of textbook model. Yes?
Floor on the factor prices, or floor on what?
This is a floor on RK over Y.
Okay.
So the consumer, they do their L part, but they have to pay for the company to do their K part. And this is a floor on what they pay the company.
Okay.
So this would be like with eggs. I'm going to show you an example of that. The government says grocery stores cannot sell eggs for more than $1 a dozen.
I see.
But there's no restriction on where the eggs are sold, how they're packaged, what days of the week they're sold, what hours of the day they're sold.
So I guess when you put a ceiling, since the price is above the ceiling, you would think of them having longer lines, which would be the WL being bigger?
Maybe, or whatever the
Like just
WL will be bigger, yes.
Right. And that's just the sorry, I'm just trying to connect this to something concrete.
I'm going to show you.
I just have never, what's the other way around then? I've never seen.
If you have a floor,
Yeah.
so a floor says, sellers, thou shalt not compete on money. Way sellers compete on money, say, I'll give it to you for less. They say, thou shalt not do that. So what can they do? They can say, well, consumer, I'll make your life easier. I'm going to make my product better so that you have to do less, and that's how I'm going to compete with the other sellers. Remember that picture of the money on the highway? The competition continues in a different way. And we already have a model that allows us to track that, so we're going to do that. Yes?
So in the textbook model, there's kind of I think there's like a time dimension, right? Where like R will change in the short run and capital changes in the long run. Does that mean there's kind of a time dimension to how industries are going to respond?
It depends on the application. We're going to come to that. Yeah, that's going to bring us some more surprises and some cool stuff. And things that I think will ring true when you start to think through what you've observed on that. So you're exactly right. You're a little quick to call K capital and L labor, but otherwise, certainly whatever is inelastically supplied in the short run could well be elastically supplied in the long run, regardless of what we're calling it, right? That's it. Yep. So what this means is that the marginal cost curve, a price control is going to rotate the marginal cost curve. It's going to raise P for the ceilings and lower it for the floors. That's one possibility. Or the opposite. It's going to lower it for floors and raise it for ceilings. Either one's a rotation. It's a question whether it's clockwise or counterclockwise. And that's what I've circled here. Knowing which one it is, just tell me whether K is the more or less elastically supplied one. So let me give you a picture. There's our unregulated marginal cost. We're going to take K being more elastically supplied. We'll take that case. The government has said RK over Y has to be $1 per dozen eggs. Now there's some point on the market unregulated supply curve where $1 is the equilibrium price, is the unregulated price. So it has no effect there, of course. But if the market wanted some price either above or below that $1 per dozen eggs, then we're going to get a different cost curve. If the market wants a price above that, in other words, we're kind of dealing with the ceiling, then the marginal cost is shifted up and vice versa below. Now the argument that I gave you before when I had the arrow between RK and WL, that was relied on being local to E. So I said, well, they were minimizing cost before. There's kind of one effect of substituting from K to L that we can ignore and focus on this comparison of factor supply elasticities. When you get far away, that other term is going to dominate too. So I have it crossing another time. We're not going to analyze that. But there's a second effect we need to look at when we get far from the unregulated price. So that's K being elastically supplied. What if K is inelastically supplied compared to L? And that's this picture. Rotates the other way. And I didn't draw it in here, but that red curve can maybe cross again way off to the right. To be able to draw it this way, only, strictly speaking, I can only do it nearby E. Okay, so I'm going to draw a demand curve in here, and now we can talk about equilibrium. Yes?
I'm sorry, can you just explain the intuition for the shifting? So when it's elastic, it shifts this way?
Yes.
Okay, and the reason why is?
With the ceilings making us use more of the consumer's input, which is inelastic.
Okay.
And so you're really driving up the price. What the unregulated market would like to do is kind of stay away from that consumer input. But the regulator is saying, no, you got to use consumer input if you want to be compliant.
I see, because you put a ceiling.
Yes.
And in that case, because it's inelastic prices, your costs have to rise, and if it's the other way around?
Your marginal costs. I mean, costs rise, costs are minimized at E, but costs are minimized on the green curve. Anywhere off the green curve is increasing total costs, but above is increasing marginal costs, below is reducing marginal costs.
And then the floor is, I use K, and K is...
Elastically supplied, so that doesn't drive up the price, and in fact I can economize on L, and that drives down the price of L, and so that ends up being below. Okay? So in this picture, a ceiling increases the quantity. We're going to a lower price, full price, and a higher quantity. So the textbook said that doesn't happen, right? And it would be, if this were the model describing the world, you would be kind of foolish if you're saying, oh, this is a competitive market, but I went in the data, I saw the quantity increase. Asamogu told me that can't happen in a competitive market, therefore the market's not competitive. No, this is exactly what ought to happen in a competitive market. Once you get rid of the miracle, and you go through an analysis of the competition that happens outside of prices. So